Hey everyone, this is Ross, and I wanted to give you another viewpoint on the eighth commandment. So I've done the first 7 commandments so far, and I'm talking about the sacredness of each commandment, what it means, and how it relates to you and I in the here and now. The eighth commandment was a struggle. I wanted to go with different thoughts that are sacred in light of the eighth commandment. So what is the eighth commandment? Well, it says in Deuteronomy chapter 20, as you read the commandments, to come to the eighth one, it says, "Thou shalt not steal." Pretty basic. Don't take something that doesn't belong to you. There's this saying that went around in my high school years and in my college years. Borrowing without permission. I'm not stealing, I'm just borrowing it without permission. That's stealing. In a degree, in and of itself, that's stealing something. If you don't have permission, it's not yours, don't take it. So as I wrestled and prayed about, even this morning, I was like, God, what would really be fitting with the eighth commandment? And what's the sacred attribute that's found in this eighth commandment when you tell us you should not steal? Because I was reminded of some of the Proverbs. People that steal things simply just to have a meal. They're stealing bread just so they can eat. I mean, yeah, if they're caught, they're going to get in trouble because according to the book of Proverbs, yeah, they will pay for what they've done wrong. But we can all, if you've ever been in a place where you've been in need, you can relate to the fact that, man, it's either starve or have something to eat. I'm going to be tempted to be okay with stealing something to eat. You know, life is more precious than objects or things. And you know, we can then play with the thought of, well, let's say it's a fruit stand that you're going to steal an apple from, just to use that as an example. Look, they've got 100 apples. They're not going to miss this one. They've got 100 apples. They have more than they need. They're going to make enough money on the other 99. We can justify our behavior by taking that which is not ours and justify. Now, is there some stealing that's just completely unjustifiable? 100%. Greed leads to stealing, and just for the sake of creating mayhem. I remember when we grew up in Washington State. We lived in Tacoma, Washington. We were well acquainted with people stealing things. We had lawnmowers stolen, bikes that were chained to bike racks stolen. Our car, one day we woke up, our car was gone. It was stolen. We actually had someone come into my parents' bedroom. They lived on the bottom floor of a second 2-story house there on Yakima Avenue. And one morning my mom woke up to a man at the end of her bed taking her purse and waking up and chasing him down the street in her nightgown. And the cops later caught him. He was stealing. People steal because they can, steal because they are in need, steal because they're greedy. There's a lot of reasons people steal. So I asked myself and I prayed and I said, God, what is the sacredness that we can find in this 10th commandment, or this 8th commandment, that thou shalt not steal? And today I just want to reinforce for you and me the sacredness of faith. Literally, just trusting God. God, I have a need. God, I have a need that's so great that it has to be satisfied. It's not a want. It's literally a need. God, I need to pay my rent. Or God, I need to feed my children. Or God, I need to get to work and have gas in my car. And through that need, we can justify taking that which does not belong to us and fulfilling that need and saying, well, that was so important, I had to. But how about just trust God? How about just trust God? I would secondarily back this sacredness of faith, because trusting God to supply your every need is how God has led us in these experiences of life. In the wilderness, during the 40-year journey in the wilderness, Moses and the Israelites, They were taught to have faith in God, to trust God every day because he supplied their need on a daily basis with manna from heaven. Now think about that. Every day, just looking to God and trusting him. But there are some other things, so other truths and principles that underlie this faith in God, and that have some sacredness to them as well. I would say underneath the level of the sacredness of having faith and trusting God is the sacredness of stewardship and taking care of what you've been given so that you're not finding yourself in a place of need. I don't know if you're familiar with the story of the ants and the grasshopper, but the ants were working very hard in the hot Texas summer sun. And they were working hard, and the grasshopper looked at him and he says, "It's summertime, let's have fun." They're like, we can have fun, but we have to work first. We have to get this done. And he said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, we're storing up food." And the grasshopper looked around and said, "There's plenty of food. We'll be fine." And they're like, "No, we need to plan because winter's coming and it won't always be fine and there won't always be plenty of food around." And the grasshopper mocked them and danced, and he lived frivolously all that summer. And then it came to the winter. And the grasshopper had very little wood to put on the fire and very little food to put in his belly because he had not seized the opportunity to be a good steward of his time and his opportunities. And so now he was hungry and cold in the winter. That story is not exactly how it's told, but I think you get the story. That the sacredness of trusting God is also underpinned with the sacredness of stewardship. When God has given to you what you will need, do right with it. Don't squander away what God has blessed you with. I'll give you one last story. I've told this story before, but it's been a while. My wife and I were newly married. God had blessed us with good jobs and ministry opportunities in Asheville, North Carolina. We were living in Knoxville, Tennessee. We were not married yet, but we lived in the Knoxville, Tennessee area separately. We didn't live together before we were married. That would be a sin. But, so then we get married and we move to North Carolina. And we don't have any budget in place because we're both newly married, 2 incomes, living in our basement apartment. Wasn't that expensive. And we got into the lifestyle of playing a lot of golf and eating a lot of food at nice restaurants. And not really, no budget, no savings, not the brightest bulb, at least I wasn't, as the leader of this group of 2. And one day it came time to pay rent. And so I said, "Hey, honey, I need some money to help pay rent." She goes, "I don't have any money. You have the money. You're going to pay the rent." I said, "Well, no, but I need your help." She goes, "I don't have any money." Guys, I said, "I don't have any either. I was hoping you did." And we got down and prayed and said, "God, we don't have any money to pay rent. What are we going to do?" And God said, "Well, quit squandering what I've blessed you with. You have 2 good jobs. You have more than sufficient income to pay your rent. And I'm not giving you a dime." That was tough love from God the Father. But I learned a valuable lesson early on in my marriage that God does bless us with things, and we do foolish, silly, stupid, wrong things with what God's given us. And then when he come down to a place of need, we might be tempted to take from Peter to pay Paul, right? And we're robbing ourselves of a blessing, and we're giving ourselves worry and fear because we haven't learned stewardship and we haven't learned to trust God. So the sacredness of our faith is so important. And I hope this is a blessing to you. Have a good day.